Hi, friends, and welcome to All the Things TV, where we tackle full living and goal getting with the grace and gifts God gives. My name is Tiffany Jo Baker, and today I'm super excited to have with me one of my friends that I have met in real life, Joanna Teigen. Joanna, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here talking with you.
I just can't wait to just dive in. But before we dive in, y'all, let me tell you a little bit about her. So she's been married to her husband, Rob, who I've met in real life too, for over 25 years. They love life with 5 kids. And can you believe she's got a daughter-in-law? I mean, she looks so amazing.
You're very kind.
They share an addiction to coffee, bookstores, and Christmas music. They debate whether 2 dogs are enough and who should win The Voice every season. Love that. But they agree that their vows are forever. Children are a gift, and prayer is powerful. Joanna is the co-author of Mr. and Mrs. 366 Devotions for Couples and lots of other resources for couples and parents through their ministry and business called Growing Home Together. And they live in West Michigan. So thank you. There's so many things we could talk about.
There are, yes.
So many things we could hit. But I know what was on your heart and mine as we began to talk about it was you're a mom of 5. I'm a mom of 2. And just how do we support our kids and their mental health and their well-being? You know, so many times we are spirit, soul, and body. Mm-hmm. And our soul is our mind, our will, and emotions. And I think especially in today's day and age, if anything is going to be attacked, it's going to be our mind, our will, and our emotions.
Yes, definitely.
Right? We're just the day and age that we're in. So can you kind of share with us as a mom of 5 some of the struggles and the things that your kiddos have had to deal with in the area of mental health and things along those lines?
Right. In some ways, I kind of feel like it was the perfect storm for my kids because there is a very strong genetic predisposition to depression and anxiety in our family. And you can see those threads weaving out for generations. And for me, when I hit puberty, it was like flipping a switch and I started to really, really struggle. And it got really bad before it got better. And so I think been a little hyper attentive to watching how this might play out for my own children. And sure enough, as one by one they hit puberty, it was like flipping the switch. And then you add in some life stressors and some unique circumstances. And in different seasons, they certainly were struggling. And so trying to figure out how to support them has been a journey that Rob and I have been really committed to. And it's been really neat to see what God has provided along the way and what we've learned along the way. And really, it's not an issue that ever disappears. I think our kids need support for their mental health all the time, no matter where they're at. But there were times in our family where it became more urgent.
So I love that you brought up the nature versus nurture. You know, some of it is our genetic predispositions,
right?
Our bloodlines. Some of it is life and the things we experience. So can you kind of can you kind of share maybe some of the life things if you're able to? I don't want you to share anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing, but what are some of the stressors that compounded to mental health struggles?
Right. I think that there is a hormonal component. The doctors have talked to me just about brain development, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the brain that doesn't really start to settle out until they're maybe 16 or 17. So we definitely saw an uptick in certain struggles, especially with anxiety, in about the 12 to 15 range. Some of it was life stress. We experienced some pretty major transitions with moving, and there were some losses. One of my children actually had a really traumatic accident in middle school, and it was such a significant injury that she was kept home and really isolated from her classmates and her routine. And when she tried to re-enter into school, she sort of had an identity crisis because the friend groups had changed. She was hearing a lot of fear about hurting herself again. And she just lost her bearings. And another daughter had an injury that created insomnia, actually, and I didn't realize the emotion and sleep connection before. So even just from a physical standpoint, they had some setbacks there.
I love that you are able to recognize indicators, especially having your own journey, going through puberty and things like that. So I never even thought of sleep.
Huge. It's huge. I would say for all of my kids, sleep is one of the first little red flags that start waving that maybe they're not doing okay. They either have trouble falling asleep at night, or they'll wake up very early in the morning kind of with their mind racing with all the things they're stressing about, or they're sleeping a lot. That's a big one, especially with teenagers. And I think I missed it for a while because it's sort of a stereotype that kids lay around and sleep, right?
Oh my goodness. I think so much of this we could say could disguise itself under hormones and puberty and mood swings and peer issues. Which makes it extra tricky.
It is. I think that's where we're blessed as moms that we get a front row seat to their life, because we can recognize patterns. And if we are very attentive, we can usually tell what is just, wow, I've had a busy week and I'm tired. And what is maybe an attempt to escape from stress or avoid things that are difficult, or just shut down because an emotion is feeling overwhelming.
That's so good, Joanna. The patterns. You said that word pattern.
Yes.
You know, a one-off night or week or even a short season is nothing to be alarmed at. But when it's something to think and to register and to take note of. But when you start seeing those patterns, that's huge. That's such a good word.
Yeah, and patterns really show up too with eating habits, actually. So my daughter had told me this winter that she just lost her appetite entirely. And that was showing up with some weight loss. We had to really pay attention to that. Another child, if they're feeling anxious, like, hello, run for chocolate, right?
Right.
Yeah, they might actually go the other way and try to maybe cope with their feelings through food. So if you notice that all of a sudden just a dramatic change in their regular eating patterns, that's another little tip off.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so sleep, weight gain, isolation. I think we talked a little bit about that. Yes. Any other indicators that you can remember or think of?
Right. Well, during the school year, academics can be a clue. My kids are very independent learners. They're very motivated. They like to do well. And when they are healthy and strong, they do well. But I'm telling you, when those emotions come trucking in, all of a sudden they can't concentrate and they lose their motivation. And their brain might say, I really want to perform well on this test, but I just can't get my body to cooperate and do the hard work. And so you might see a dip in their grades, or they might be less likely to take initiative, even with things like going to a teacher for help, or putting together a study group, or anything that requires that extra push of initiative that might fall off the table.
Yeah. So I'm in the thick of, hormones right now. So our girls are 15 and 17.
Okay.
So we are in the midst,
yes.
And love them. And then one of our girls also is on anti-seizure medicine.
Okay.
And so, we have that extra added layer of side effects of medication, and so it's these things that kind of layer it. But at the heart of it all, as a mom, we know our kids, right?
Right.
And God has given them to us for a reason and for a season. And when we are operating, going to him first and asking him for wisdom from the Holy Spirit on what this is, and when we foster good communication within our family, we don't have to live in fear,
Right.
but we can take natural steps. So how does your faith play a part in coping or in navigating with you and with the kids when they're dealing with the struggles?
Right. I think one thing that's really important, especially if we're trying to engage with our kids about how does faith play into your situation, is very much about grace. I think there can be a little bit of a slide into attaching emotions to our character or our morality. And we can unwittingly communicate to our kids that you have a faith problem rather than you have an emotional problem. And so if we are saying your faith must be small because you're so anxious, right? Or you must not have the joy of the Lord because you're feeling depressed today.
Or just
Or
pray. Or just
right.
pray. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it is actually a phenomenal opportunity to just help our kids experience God's unconditional love for them. And He is the first one in line to want to comfort them, to reassure them. He is the source of their healing, So the language that we use with our kids around faith and mental health, I think, is really important. It can be a hindrance, or it can be just the greatest blessing of all, for sure.
That is so beautiful, because it's another opportunity that we have to point them to the Father and His heart. And that, yes, He's the God of the mountains and the good places and the high places, but He's also the God of the low places and the valleys. And He's with us in our sufferings, and He's with us in our cheering and our cheering, as I say. And so, what a beautiful thing. Well, as we wrap up this time, if there was a mom out there who's like, Joanna, I'm sensing that there might be something, but I'm not sure, what would you say to them? Could you speak to them right now?
Right. I would say this is a wonderful opportunity to just be present with your child and to practice listening. When it's a good, quiet, open-ended moment, to just ask questions and sit and listen without even giving feedback in that time, and just see if your kids can tell you where they are. If you notice a behavior or something that's a concern to you, rather than saying, how can we correct this behavior that seems a little off to me? Just, hey, is this little pattern that I'm seeing in your life a sign that maybe you're not doing so well? Or do you feel like you need a little support right now? Or is there anything that you want me to know about how you're doing?
Oh, those are good. Those are really good questions. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. We're gonna do another part 2 to this, because there's so much to it. This is we're just dipping our toes in and just getting a really good introduction to our children and to their mental health and how to love them well through that. So thank you so much, Joanna, for being here, and we will be back for part 2. Well, y'all, thank you so much for being here for another episode of All the Things TV, where we discuss full living and goal getting with the grace and gifts God gives. Now go do all the things that God's created you to do with the grace and the gifts He's given you.